Hello YouTube, Arrow Assassin here again. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a PvP guide. This has been requested for feral druids. Going to be going over talents, PvP talents, legendaries, conduits, covenants, etc. And let's go and dive right into it. So first is going to be the talents, and if you've been around my channel since BFA, you guys will know this is pretty much the build I ran the entirety of BFA pretty much. And in Shadowlands, I'd say it's pretty much the exact same. There's some stuff you could change around, like I've seen some people ask about a bleed type of build. I've seen some people run it in game as well. I personally do not recommend it. I didn't like it myself. But if you really want to go for a bleed build, you can go Necrolord, Lunar Inspiration, and you can go for one of the legendaries with the Hopeful Bleed effects, which is Circle of Life and Death and Drought of Deep Focus. I feel like those two are the good ones for bleeds. But again, I would not really recommend it. But if you really want to go for a bleed type of build, you can go for one of those two legendaries and run Lunar Inspiration and probably go for Blood Talents because it'll buff up your rips. So, that's if you want to go for a bleed build. If you want to go for the standard burst type of build, this is the one I always run with, and the burst you can do with it is absolutely insane. And if you guys know right now, PvP is absolutely about the burst. It's just the way it is. So, I would recommend it. So, first row, Sabretooth buffs your Ferocious Bite, which is pretty much your main big damage right now. Wild Charge is just overall useful for Feral. I don't really prefer the other two at all for Feral, but that's just me. Restoration Affinity is my go-to. It's just really nice for Ferals in my opinion. Guardian Affinity I guess can work, but I really don't recommend it for Feral in my opinion. I just definitely prefer Restoration Affinity, at least for solo. The fourth row, you can actually use any of these talents, but my go-to would be Mighty Bash. Heart of the Wild is just I never liked long cooldowns, but it is strong in duels. But like I said, waiting 5 minutes every time it's up is just going to be rather annoying. Mass Entanglement could be good for battlegrounds if you got a group chasing you. You can mass root them and get away that way. But again, I feel like Mighty Bash, even after the nerf, is just good because you can set up a CC and do your massive burst from a certain covenant, which I'll get later into the video. And that's just why I picked Mighty Bash. I never liked Savage Roar. I don't really recommend the talent. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I just think Soul of the Forest is better in my opinion, just because you get energy back per combo point and deal increased damage. Incarnation can be good for War mode. Just because if you're not a night elf, you can use incarnation and then prowl and get away that way. So I would recommend incarnation maybe for a war mode, but overall I think Soul of the Forest is just better for this row. This row I would just go with Brutal Slash. Send of Blood is just pretty much useless, and Primal Wrath could be okay for battlegrounds, but Brutal Slash in my opinion is the way to go. And then last but not least, I hate Blood Talents with a Burning Passion. I don't really recommend it. If you really want to use it for the bleed build, you can. But in this burst meta, I feel like Feral Frenzy is king. So, that's my opinion. Now for PvP talents. PvP talents, I always run with Thorns. Obviously, if there's no melee, you can replace that with something else. But I'm a Battleground and War Mode World PvP person, so I always go with Thorns. But in Arena, obviously, you can switch it out for what you're facing at the time. I love Ferocious Wounds because it's very useful for reduced health against pretty much anything. And then last but not least, obviously, Leader of the Pack, which gives you buffs for extra crit and so on and so forth. You can probably switch out Ferocious Wounds and obviously Thorns if there's no melee. So if other backup honor talents I kind of like are Savage Momentum, probably for the first one that I would obviously replace for, because I love Savage Momentum. Obviously, having your cooldowns back faster is a plus. I've seen some other druids use Strength of the Wild, but like I said, those are pretty much my main four I always use. I don't really use any of the other honor talents, but if you have a personal preference to replace something over Thorns, like say for example, you love Rip and Tear over any of the other talents, then you can use that. It comes down to personal preference, but those four are pretty much my go-to, which are Thorns, Ferocious Wound, Leader of the Pack, and Savage Momentum. Next up, we're going to be talking about legendaries, and right now, I currently have two, but the best in slot feral, in my opinion, for PvP, hands down, is the Eye of Fearful Symmetry. I did play with Cat Eye Curl, which in my opinion was like it was really rough to go without because it was personally one of my favorites on the beta. But after playing with Fearful Symmetry, which it was actually nerfed, I think not too long before Live came out, but overall it's still too good. You basically can get 2 ferocious bites insanely quick on your target, which obviously, like I said, the burst meta is fast enough right now, so you really want more burst. So the more bites you can do, the better. And in my opinion, this is hands down the best Feral Druid legendary. But again, if you're running the bleed build, I would probably go with Drought of Deep Light Focus or Circle of Life and Death. But that's just personal opinion. Other Feral Druid legendaries that deserve honorable mentions are Cat Eye Kuro and Oath of the Elder Druid. Those two are not bad as well if you really don't want to run IF Fear Symmetry, or if you play other specs like me and you want a legendary that works for all specs, you can go with the Oath of Elder Druid because it works for every spec. But take that as how you will. But yeah, anyways, for best in slot legendary for Feral Druid in PvP, I have Fearful Symmetry, hands down. Would recommend. Honorable mentions are Cat Eye Kuro and Oath of the Elder Druid, but I would still recommend the Eye of Fearful Symmetry for the bleed build. Drought of Deep Focus, and Circle of Life, or one of those two. Apex Predator isn't too bad as well, but it just is a chance to make sure you're ferocious by damage free and deal maximum damage. That's good, but I just don't really want to rely on RNG, so I Fearful Symmetry some more. Alright, up next is Covenants, and there's 2 Covenant choices you can go. Obviously, I can only show you one of them because it's what I picked, but I have played both of these 2, which you'll see in future videos if unless I posted them first, but odds are I'll probably be posting this one first. When I leveled up, I played Kieran, and then I eventually switched to Night Fae, which you're seeing right now. Those are basically your 2 choices for PvP, unless you go for the bleed build, which you're going to be going Necrolord. But again, I would not recommend it. My personal opinion, Night Fae is the most fun out of the Bastion, but in the long run, Bastion is probably better. The reason why that is because Bastion gives you an ability that gives you 15% increased damage. They also give you some health potions, which are really nice to remove bleeds. So if you want to get away and get a reset, that would actually be pretty nice. So that's nice as well. But overall, what makes Bastion Covenant really strong is the fact that they give you 15% increased damage. So obviously, Burst is king. You would put this in your macro. Here, let me show you guys my quick macro, because I don't have any macros, really. Those other ones are useless. This is basically the only one I have for Feral, pretty much. But I just have my Berserk, and then if you have potions, you can put in that, as well as your trinkets. And if you're in the Bastion Covenant, you would just type in cast Lone Empowerment, because I remember that name, that's the reason why, and you would put it in your macro, and you would just nuke somebody with that insane burst. And that's why the Bastion Covenant is super good. Obviously, it's also a 1-minute cooldown, unless you have the Conduit in it, which reduces its time to like 54 seconds or lower, I believe. And then you can put it on your bars and use it like 2 more times before it comes up, and you can use it with Berserk and just totally nuke something. So, overall, in the long run, I think Bastion might be better than Night Fae, and especially for arenas, because let's talk about Night Fae now. Night Fae is basically the spell, which is RNG. It can be very insane, and yeah, what it does is it gives you 16 druid spells, which give you which cast any spell. Here, I'll just demonstrate it for you guys. So, just casting spells right there. You can see the RNG. Cast Moonfire, casted Feral Frenzy, casted Ferocious Bite. It'll pretty much nuke your target like nothing. The downside of this ability, and what a lot of people are just apparently a little bit clueless about, is the fact that it is super, super, super easy to interrupt. I've been interrupted by a lot of people, but I've also gotten it off on a lot of people. It just depends on the player, and but if you can set it up, it's extremely nice. For high-rated arena play, I don't know if it'll be good, just simply due to the fact that, like I said, if people have a brain, they can easily interrupt it. I know people are thinking, like, just set up your CC for it, and that's true. I mean, if you can get a team to set it up, great, but I feel like in the long run, Bastion might be better for arenas just simply due to the fact that it can't be interrupted and it's free 15% increased damage. While Spirits does insane burst and can pretty much destroy somebody into seconds, anybody that has a brain can literally interrupt it. So that's my personal opinion. My favorite Covenant so far is Night Fae, even though, like I said, it can be interrupted. The ability is just super satisfying to use, and I played with both. And who knows if what Covenant will get nerfed, because we all know Blizzard can't balance for crap. So take that as how you will, but at the end of the day, go with what you want. But as of right now, my personal suggestion is either Bastion or Night Fae. Both of those are very good right now for druids, and that's it. Now let's go over conduits. Obviously, I don't have all of them, but I do have a general idea from the beta on which ones I will be going once I get them. First things first, once you do the intro quest, the game will give you a conduit if you pick Night Fae. I'm only going to talk about Night Fae because that's all I can talk to you about. And that will give you the Spirits conduit, which increases its damage and healing by 15%. It already nukes everything in its path. So I would highly, highly suggest this as your number one first potency conduit. And it's an incredibly powerful ability, and to add more damage and healing to it, it's just a +1 in my opinion. So pick this as your conduit first and upgrade it as much as you can. It goes up to, I think, 226 item level if I remember right, but obviously I don't think most of the player base will get that high, but if you can get as high as you can, go for it. I believe the world boss at some points will have a conduit for it. Yeah, see? The world boss, which will be going up soon, will have a conduit for it. Good luck on getting it, because it's going to be a gigantic pain in the butt. I can believe it's coming. And I believe bonus rolls are no longer a thing. So like I said, good luck on getting it. But yeah, you're going to want to get this. And that's for the potency conduits. And also you want to go on the left side, because the right side's kind of useless. Everybody wants potency conduits. Which will give you the run without tiring, which will give you soul shape, which soul shape is kind of useless for druids, but it can be useful for sometimes. But yeah, so you'll have this. Then you'll get a finest conduit, which you're gonna want. Let me see if I can find it real quick. You're gonna want Born of the Wilds, which reduced the cooldown of Mighty Bash and Mass Entanglement and Heart of the Wild. So anything that reduces the cooldown on your defensives like that / CC is a +1. So try and get this conduit when you can, because less cooldown on Mighty Bash and Mass Entanglement, etc., is a +1. So for the finest conduit, get this one. After that, you can go either right or left. I would recommend obviously going for the Swift Patrol, because movement and speed increased by 20% for 2 minutes after defeating an enemy, and especially in battlegrounds, is incredibly useful. Nobody wants a chance to obtain letter, meat, and fish when you kill an enemy. At least in my opinion. Maybe you want it, I don't know, but I would personally rather have the movement speed increase. But that's just me. And then up next is Endurance Conduits. That one's kind of like a... it's a little bit of a... I'm not sure about this one. There was a few good ones, but honestly, I think this one's actually not a bad of a choice. Extra healing on yourself, considering the fact that pharaohs rely on their self-healing to live, is pretty good. So I feel like you should probably pick this one, just as a personal opinion. But Innate Resolve, probably for the Endurance Conduit. Last but not least, you're going to want to go for the final potency conduits, because the potency conduits are, in my opinion, the most powerful. And you can go with two choices. One is Taste for Blood, which Ferocious Bite deals 2.6% increased damage on your bleeds per target. Obviously, I have the higher item level version of it. If you have a lower item level version of it, it's a little bit lower, but you guys get the point. The other one is the Tigerish Fury one. But in my opinion, I would probably go for Taste for Blood, because the more bleeds you have with between Rake, Rip, and Thrash, your Ferocious Bite will hit even harder. And obviously, Ferocious Bite is your main damage dealing ability. So you're going to want this. So that's my personal preference. To pretty much sum it up once again, go for the conflicts of the elements for your first potency conduit. For your fitness conduit, go for Born of the Wilds. And for the endurance conduit, go for the innate resolve, which you'll pretty much already have the first two. And you have to find a Born of the Wild somewhere. And then for the final potency conduit, you go for Taste for Blood, which you're going to have to find either. So you'll pretty much have two of the conduits you already need. You'll just have to go find a Born of the Wild conduit and a Taste for Blood conduit, which shouldn't be too hard. Not to mention you have to wait for Renown Time Gate anyways. So, go crazy. Alright. Races, I would only go either Tauren, High Mountain Tauren for Horde. If you're Alliance, go for Shadow Meld Night Elf. That's really all there is to it. The other races like Kulturin is more so for fun, but obviously Shadow Meld is king for PvP. It's always going to be. That's pretty much all you need to know about races. Stats, not much has changed. Go for not haste. Go for versatility and mastery, because versatility is increasing your damage and your heals, and then mastery increases your ferocious bites. Burst. There's two types of burst. Obviously, it depends on your covenants. Like I said, if you're Bastion, you can macro Lone Empowerment with your Berserk, and that's your only burst. You can also use Lone Empowerment twice before it comes back up, and you can use it for your Berserk burst again. But I can't demonstrate for you because I am not Bastion right now. For Night Fae, there's two bursts. One is your Berserk burst, and one is your Spirits burst. And what I like to do is there's two different things you can do. You'll get the Clueless players, which you can just open up on with Rake and then completely just hit them with Spirits. And what I like to do is keep track if they have Trinket up or not with an add-on called Nameplate Cooldowns, I believe, which will tell you if they have Trinket or not. And then you can just rake them and then use Spirits on them and they'll die. Otherwise, if they're smart, you're going to want to bait out their Trinket, which you can probably cycle on them, and 9 times out of 10 they'll probably Trinket that. And then shortly after that, you get them a Mighty Bash, which is why I prefer this talent, and then you use Spirits. And that's burst number 1. So always try to keep an eye out if they have a Trinket or not. Also keep in mind if you're facing a Warlock or a Death Knight, they can use their pets to pretty much interrupt you, so keep that in mind as well. Also keep in mind that Spirits is RNG and it will hit anything nearby, which includes pets, which is a pain in the butt versus hunters, DKs, and locks sometimes. So position yourself a little bit well versus those pets, and you can maybe hit the main target instead of the pets. So, yeah. Second burst is the Berserk burst. And what I like to do, let me get rid of these comment points real quick. And what I like to do is I will pop a Prowl on them, Rake, Rip, Berserk, Feral Frenzy, Tiger's Fury, Ferocious Bite, Shred, Ferocious Bite, and then just keep going for that for another Shred, Ferocious Bite again, and then just build up some Shreds to 5 combo points and Ferocious Bite. 9 times out of 10, most of the time the target's dead after the second or third Ferocious Bite, but yeah, that's pretty much Berserk Burst. I believe that is everything, guys. If I missed anything, let me know. If you have any more questions, let me know. Hopefully this guide helped you out. And that's it. I'll catch you guys later.